guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I want to look into today is a missing persons case of a little girl called Nicole Morin. She went missing in 1985 and we still have zero idea what happened to her. Nicole Louise Morin was born on the 1st of April in 1977 to parents Arthur and Jeanette, and they lived in Canada, specifically Toronto in Ontario. Her parents had actually been married for 12 years before she came along, but I believe at the time of this sort of occurring, they weren't living together, so I don't think they were actually fully split up, like, well, maybe not divorced, but they were no longer living together. So Jeanette lived in this massive tall apartment block with her daughter. She lived in a penthouse suite of 627 the Westmall Apartments, and this was in Spoke. Probably said that wrong, so I apologise if I have. They lived on the 20th floor, and her father actually lived in Mississauga, I think. Sorry if I've said that wrong, I probably have. Nicole went to Westworth Junior School, and she was actually in like the middle of her summer holidays, well, on her summer holidays, when this happened. She was in 3rd grade. You have to think as well, back in the 80s, like, people's children used to roam a lot more, and, you know, people wouldn't have them as close to the side as more people do nowadays, because that's just how it wasn't done then. And so she lived in this 24th apartment. Her mother was actually like running a daycare from her room where she would look after children, and on this day in particular she was looking after some children. It was the 30th of July 85, and it was a normal occurrence for Nicole to go down to the pool that they had in the apartment complex, the building, whatever it is, and just go for a swim, you know, on her own with some friends, no bother. And that was for what the plan was for this morning. So Nicole gets up and she goes down and collects the mail at 10:30, comes back up to the apartment. And then I don't know whether it was pre-planned or whether her friend turned up and asked her if she wanted to go swimming, but basically she was planning on going swimming with a friend down in the lobby. Well, not in the lobby, she was going to meet a friend in the lobby, and then they were going to go swimming. I believe the pool was like an outdoor pool, and it was a hot summer's day, so why not? So her friend buzzed up to her and she said that she'd meet her in the lobby very shortly. And then Nicole said her goodbyes, got ready into a swimsuit and stuff. She said her goodbyes to her mum and that she was going swimming on this like planned thing that they had arranged. And then that was it. She left the apartment at 11 AM. Wearing a peach-coloured one-piece bathing suit. She had a green hairband and red canvas shoes, and she carried a plastic bag. Inside of it, she had a t-shirt, which was white, green and white shorts. She had suntan lotion, hairbrush, peach-coloured blanket, and a purple beach towel. And at the time, she was 4 foot tall with brown hair and brown eyes. So you're thinking, right, Nicole leaves her apartment, and then she is going to probably get in the lift to go down to the lobby and meet her friend there. But that never happened. Nicole literally vanishes after that. So her friend's waiting. She waited 15 minutes and is like, you know, where on earth is she? So she rings back to her room to say, like, you know, what you playing at? Why are you not down here yet? And Jeanette answers, her mum, and says, you know, Nicole left. She's either messing around, she's got chatting with somebody, she could even be playing in the lift like kids do, you know, just playing around, or maybe she decided that she was going to get something first, who knows. And so her friend just accepted that and decided that she would go swimming alone, and, you know, probably see Nicole down there in a little bit. But she never came. Nicole never turned up, and Jeanette wasn't initially worried because she just figured that it was kids being kids, you know, and nothing bad would have happened. Hours passed by. Like I said, she's looking after children in her room, well, apartment, and she just thinks that Nicole is swimming, so she doesn't really think much of it. And it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when she finally realizes that something was wrong. And I say finally, I don't mean that like in a bad way. She like I said, it was a time when people would just leave the kids to go and do whatever and stuff, you know. It was just, she'd not seen her in hours, and so she started like wondering what was what, and then realised that she hadn't even been down to the pool, and obviously she'd been missing for hours at that point, so she was reported missing to the police. And they did literally everything they could to try and find Nicole. They started canvassing the apartment complex and trying going door to door. But at that point, you've got to think as well, she'd already been missing hours. So even if somebody grabbed her, for instance, they could have easily left the apartment in that time with Nicole, and maybe nobody even saw them. A witness did come forward, or a neighbour, to say that they'd actually seen Nicole heading from the apartment and travelling down to like the corridor towards the elevator. So they know that she got sort of at least that far, but then after that, nobody saw her ever again. Like, she just vanished. And the police really did try super hard with this case. It is still a very infamous cold case with the Toronto Police Department. It was very high profile at the time. They set up roadblocks on the first day. You know, they tried everything. They went around the vehicle, went around the building with vehicles. They were alerting, you know, the neighborhood residents to her description, knocking on every single door. And bearing in mind, it was a 429 unit apartment block, so they were knocking on all them doors. But I'm not actually sure whether they went in, which, if they did not, could have been, well, would have been a massive hindrance to the case, because they're knocking on people's doors, right? And she might have been knocked out in someone's bedroom. They don't know that if they don't go in there, which I don't think that they did, which is kind of frustrating and a massive blip on the case. But, you know, hindsight and all that lot. I think they probably went in some apartments. I might be wrong. Please correct me if I am wrong on this. I read somewhere that they didn't really go in, but then I've seen that they went into some apartments. Like, if they didn't get an answer, they entered the apartment either way. So I don't know whether they just entered the apartments that didn't give them an answer, or whether they went in them all. But whether they did a thorough search, if they did go in them all, who knows. There's also a couple of things. They did these two recreations like 7 years apart from each other, which differ, and I believe that there's a lot of story that says one thing and then, you know, something that says another. I've read that Nicole actually made it into the elevator and down to the lobby, but then nobody saw her after that. But that didn't really make sense to me, because her friend was waiting down there in the lobby for her, as far as I knew. So surely if she actually made it down there, that she would have seen it, unless they mean she just made it into the elevator and then somebody either got in on a stop. It could have been like they've gone past her floor, you know. They get on the elevator on their floor, realise that she's alone, and then they take her, or something like that. Who knows at this point. So now we're on to the next day, and the police are really stepping up like their investigation. She'd been missing for 24 hours. You know, vital hours had been lost initially when her mother didn't know where she was, just thought she was swimming. And so they were just trying to just do everything they could. They had horsemen out, marine units, helicopters, foot patrols, everything. They were coming all this area near Highway 27, which was close to the apartment building. They had tracking dogs. They searched garages, all these different storage units, everything. They thought that somebody had, you know, seen, there was something about a witness seeing a blonde woman who was there around the time that Nicole went missing, or 45 minutes before. They tried to identify her, but they never did. And of course, everyone in the vicinity joined in. There was like 900 neighbours and residents that joined in the search for Nicole. As I've already said, they did reenactments as well to try and just show people what it looks like. Sometimes that really does spark a memory. Like, you might not think you know anything, or you might even see it off chance on TV and not realise that it was even in the media. And so these videos can be really helpful in that. I don't really understand why they differ so much in how they tell the story, because one was released in, I can't remember, like 2007, and then the other was like 2014 or something like that, and they tell a slightly different story, which is strange because the police made them both, so I don't really know why that's the case, because they knew all the details of the case. And the police had a lot of leads as well, which they did follow up on. They ended up following up on like 25,000 leads, tips. They had a task force put together just to find Nicole. Like I said, it was huge, but they didn't find anything. They also, another really annoying thing about this case, at the time the apartment complex did not have any CCTV cameras, but I've also seen that within the next day, I think, they were going to be installed. So that has led people to believe, was somebody actually watching Nicole and possibly stalking her? Maybe they worked there, maybe they didn't, maybe they lived there, maybe they didn't. And they figured that this would be their only opportunity, their last opportunity to grab her, because they would have been caught on CCTV after that. Who knows? It's really frustrating, because literally if it would have happened the next day, they probably would have seen something. They did find a strange thing as well, that apparently in her apartment they found a note that Nicole had written, and it actually was a few months before she vanished, and it said, "I'm going to disappear," which is strange for an 8-year-old girl to be writing, but also at the same time, she's a kid. They do strange things. So I don't know what to make of that, whether it means anything, whether it means nothing, who knows. Now, her parents did kind of get back together for a stint whilst they were looking for the daughter and while she was missing. Art moved back in with Jeanette for a while, but then they ended up fully splitting up in 1987. And this case is still open. It's still being looked into. They did what are they called? Where you do age up. I can't remember what they're called. Where they get the photo and then they make you look older. You guys know what it's called. I should know what it's called, but the word is not coming to my brain right now. So we're just going to leave it at that, okay? Yeah, they did those of what she might look like as she got older. And, you know, it's just such a frustrating case. Her mother actually passed away in 2007. And she had always hoped that Nicole would come back one day, like you always do. Or even if she had been killed, that she would one day get her body back and be able to lay her to rest. Her father as well is still very much of the opinion that she's hoping as well that she is out there somewhere and that she's going to come back one day. And, you know, like those stories where they've kidnapped a child and like 15 years later they come back, do you know what I mean? Something like that. So that is what he was hoping for. And it's kind of was more solidified when the mother, Jeanette, actually had another son. They had the daughter together, but I believe in a previous marriage she had a son. And the father actually took him away one day, and like 15 years later he came back to his mum's house, just turned up out of the blue. She didn't know what had happened to him, well, she figured that he took him, but that was that. She lost contact with him completely, and that was it. It was like he just vanished. But then he turned back up again. So it kind of left that hope for Nicole, for both of them, having sort of witnessed that experience before. And the Toronto police have still been doing things every year. In 2019, I believe they organised a run in Nicole's name, and they donated the proceeds to a charity that looks into missing children. And literally as recent as earlier this year, I think it was about July-ish, I have seen an article on basically that they had cadaver dogs. So apparently the previous month, somewhere along the lines, they'd received this tip that this woman had seen a girl that resembled Nicole leaving with like a man or a person that she potentially knew. And it led them to this certain area. And then this organisation that looks into all of these missing children and things put together these like scent dogs, and they went to this area and they got a hit on a specific section of it to say that they'd found some human remains, which of course they then passed on to the police. And as far as I'm aware, that's as far as it's gotten. Whether the police looks into it, I don't know. There's not any more information on it. But it just goes to show that people are still looking into it to this day. Her case remains open, and it's one of the biggest cases that Toronto police ever, missing persons cases, like they ever did. It's very high profile, and they still want it out in, you know, in public eye. Maybe one day we'll find out what happened to Nicole. Maybe we won't. There's a lot of theories in it. But it's basically, they basically ruled out that she ran away, I'm pretty certain of. So it's more like she is certainly being abducted. Whether that was by a worker who worked at the hotel and took a liking to her, not hotel, apartment block. Whether it was, you know, somebody that Nicole actually knew who lived there, or at least thought she knew and said that she didn't. And whether, I don't know, but like I said, if they took her in that apartment block and then took her to the room, maybe they pulled her out of a back way or something that they know about where she wouldn't be seen. I have no idea what happened to her. But I genuinely hope that one day we do find out. It really breaks my heart that her mother passed away without ever knowing. So I really hope that this case is solved sooner rather than later, and then her father can finally find out what happened. And hopefully he will be able to find out, because it just breaks my heart that the mother never did. Jeanette never did. But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. And that's all I have today on the case of Nicole Morin. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!